Blessings, everybody. This is Dale. Thank you so much for joining with me today on the Word Podcast. We are just beginning to run through the Proverbs that we find in the Scripture. In the previous couple episodes, we've looked at the first, 7 verses, the first chapter. So I want to go back to chapter 1, pick up at verse 7. This is the one that's very, very familiar to folks. It says this: "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction." And so we're going to see this type of thing reiterated in the Proverbs. So don't lose sight of it. You want to gain knowledge? Then fear the Lord, because fearing the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. This is where you start. You don't seek to get knowledge to attain the fear of the Lord and say, okay, I want to get enough knowledge and someday I'll be able to fear the Lord right. And that's the wrong mindset. You fear the Lord, and that is the idea of respecting, of reverence. But it's also that thing of awesome, terrifying fear of the Lord, yeah. But then it tells us that fools despise wisdom and instruction. So fools do not fear the Lord. They don't have wisdom. They don't have instruction. Now, verse 8 says this. Let me check here. I'm reading from the ESV. Yeah, verse 8 and 9 are all one sentence. The King James just does a little different, but listen what it says. "Hear, my son, your father's instructions, and forsake not your mother's teaching, for they are a graceful garland for your head and pendants for your neck." And so we see that, and Solomon wrote these Proverbs, he's speaking to a son. He's speaking to offspring, to progeny. And he's calling him the hearer. And he says, "Hear, my son." And he's telling him to listen to his parents. Listen to your father's instructions, and don't forsake your mother's teaching. So the father will instruct, mothers will teach. And he's saying, listen to him. Don't reject these things. Why is that? Because they are a graceful wreath, a graceful garland, a graceful ornament. Or King James says, an ornament of grace unto thy neck. So it's a graceful garland to your head and a pendant for your neck, or like a chain around your neck. They are a wonderful garland. And what is it? Your father's instruction, your mother's teaching. But then he immediately just starts getting down to some serious things. Verse 10, "My son, if sinners entice you, do not consent." Now, when he says my son, this also applies to daughters, okay? So don't be thinking that way, He's saying, my son, if sinners entice you, do not consent. And the idea behind consent is exactly the way we use it. Don't desire it. Don't be willing. Don't accept this. When they entice you, that means to allure you, to persuade you, to seduce you into doing something. If sinners do this, don't consent. Sinners will do this. Okay, those who do such things will seek to get you to do things. And he's telling him forthrightly, do not consent to this. Do not agree to this. Do not persuade to it. And then he gives an example, verse 11. "If they say, 'Come with us.'" Now, these next few verses are all that the sinners are saying. "If they say, 'Come with us, let us lie in wait for blood. Let us ambush the innocent without reason. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive and whole, like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all precious goods. We shall fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot among us. We will all have one purse." And then it stops there. So Solomon is quoting, this is what they're going to say to you, son. If they say this, then Solomon comes back, verse 15. "My son, do not walk in the way with them. Hold back your foot from their paths. For their feet run to evil, and they make haste to shed blood. So he tells him, don't consent, son, when sinners try to entice you. And then he gives an example, and it's a very serious example. Okay, we're thinking about maybe egging a house or something. This is a serious thing right here. Well, nowadays, egging a house is a pretty expensive proposition. But he says, if they come to you and say, hey, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood, something that's going to shed blood, let us ambush the innocent without reason. So he says, when they're going to these sinners are going to try to entice you to do this kind of stuff, just to attack somebody who's innocent with no reason at all, even to the point where they die. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive and whole, like those who go down to the pit. So these sinners are using the example, though, even though we may not kill them, we're going to come upon them like Sheol does. Sheol is the abode of the dead. We're going to swallow them alive like this. We're going to come against them. And then we're going to take their precious goods and we're going to fill our house with their plunder. And they're going to say, hey, come on with us. Let's all do it together. We'll have a common purse. Okay, no matter what we get, we'll all join together. We'll plunder it together and we'll all grow rich. And he says this, my son, when they do this, don't walk in their way. Hold back your foot from this path. Don't do it. Why? Because their feet are going to run to evil and they're going to make haste in shedding this blood. Now listen what it said in verses 17 and 18. This is one sentence right here. For in vain is a net spread in the sight of a bird, but these men lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. So what's he saying? What's Solomon saying here? He's saying, you know what? You don't lay a net out to try to capture a bird and just lay it out there where the bird can see it. If you do so, you do it in vain because the bird's going to see it and the bird's going to avoid it. He says, these men, okay, every time I get with y'all, my phone starts blowing up, right? You hear it? For these men, they lie in wait for their own blood. They set an ambush for their own lives. A bird has a sense to see that a trap has been set right here and avoids the trap. But these men, in doing this, in setting an ambush, they're ambushing their own lives. In lying in wait, they're lying in wait for their own blood, and they don't even know it. Now, verse 19. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. That's the bottom line, what he's saying right here at the very beginning. Such are the ways of everyone who is greedy for unjust gain. The New American Standard says gain by violence, which is one form of it. All the other ones say greedy for unjust gain. It takes away the life of its possessor. And I dare say most folks go, oh, yeah, I agree with that. Let me tell you, and I may pick this up next episode because my time's out. There's a lot of things that are illegal within our culture and our society that are unjust gain and that take away the life of its possessor. Sometimes we think, oh, this is just stuff that's illegal. No. There are things that are illegal among man that are unjust and take away the life of the possessor. Ask the Lord. He'll reveal it to you. Again, I'm Dale. I'll see you next episode.